Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Warning: this video is a candid exploration of the Dune universe using both Frank and Brian Herbert's novels. This video may also include discussions of violence, sexual situations, and drug use. By viewing beyond this point, you take responsibility for choosing to watch this video. All views expressed in this video are mine alone, and do not reflect any person or people, or any group or groups. Thank you, and please have a great day.
Hello and welcome to this video. I hope everything is going well, hope everyone's having fun, and I hope the universe is treating you fairly. This is going to be kind of a part 2 of my breakdown, my thoughts, my personal headcanon of the Dune Universe. Like I said in the last video, a lot of this I'm pulling most of this, or a lot of it was formed by Frank Herbert's original 6 novels, with some stuff being supplemented by the Brian Herbert, Kevin J. Anderson menagerie of Dune books. The last one we were talking about the fall of the machines, the thinking machines, the overthrowing of the AI overlords, and the things that came out of it. The Suit Doctor School came out of it. The Mentats, the Twi'leksu, the Ixians, all these different things came out of it. Your reduction or your advancement of science and technology, but with limitations, with boundaries. They abandoned the philosophy of, or I should say they adopted, I messed that up, they adopted the philosophy of because we can doesn't mean we should type thing. There is a scientist who shows up in some of the Dune or the Brian Herbert novels. Holtzman. He's mentioned by Frank Herbert in the original Dune novels. He is the one that came up with the Holtzman effect, which is the folding of space done by the navigators, the guild steersmen. He does all that. He also came up with the personal body shields that in the Lynch movie turns you into instant Minecraft player, but that's just, they're blocky. The technology in the 80s wasn't up for the shield, the Holtzman shields. So there's that. The negative side to the personal body shields is that if they're hit with a laser, the person getting hit explodes like a small yield nuclear weapon, and the person shooting the laser explodes like a small yield thermonuclear weapon. So yeah, you know, that's the reason why in the Dune books, Dune series, they use swords, they fight, they, you know, it's a lot of medieval style combat. They have the thing with the shields where the slow blade penetrates. But you can use fast attacks and stuff because of momentum, because of how physics works. There's several scenes. Actually, the scene that comes to mind is in the first Villeneuve movie when Duncan Idaho is fighting his way out of the Arakeen Palace. That there's a lot of times that he just came full on, just boom, 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 throwing the shots in there, but was throwing them hard, throwing them fast, because the energy coming off the blade, yeah, the shield is going to stop the blade from hitting, but that energy, that potential energy coming through that swing, has got to go somewhere when it impacts. And not all of it can be absorbed by the shield. So the person stumbles backwards. And he does that. He comes in like boom, 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 knocks him down, slow blade kill. But yeah, that is using your tools to the advantage. It's a very interesting concept. I think it's really cool. I just want to know who they initially got to test it. You know, did they do like they do now, have like a human-made like dummy and tested the shields, or what would become the shields, out on the dummy, or if they had humans? It's just, you know, it's the future. The Guild Steersmen, that is another just really cool. The Guild Steersmen are basically humans that have been mutated by extreme overdoses of the spice melange from Arrakis. In fact, they've become so addicted to it that they live in these cylinders, and the gas is pumped in. Technically, gas and air are fluids like water, because they take the shape of the vessel they're contained in. So that is real world science, and I'm kind of fuzzy on the exact details of it, but look it up. It's a fun read. Look up why air and water are both liquid, or both fluids. It's a really cool. If you're a science nerd, that's a really cool thing. But they float in this, and it gives them the ability to see not only huge distances, huge swaths through space, but it also gets to see, they can see the future. They can see prescience. It gives them a limited prescience, so they can see if you're traveling from, say, Caladan to Arrakis, which is what the Atreides do. They can see through and go, okay, we're gonna run you through to this point here on the timeline, because on this day or this day there's meteors or things that would be dangerous for space travel, so they could open up to a particular time window, and it's instantaneous. And luckily for the majority of the occupied or civilized planets, there's not a lot of stuff floating around space. So, you know, traveling from, you know, like Caladan to Arrakis is no more lengthy than you getting up and walking through your door, which, you know, walking through your door from your bedroom to your living room or whatever, or hallway or whatever, that step is all the longer it takes, which is really cool. In Sisterhood of Dune, Brian Herbert book, one of the founder, the lady who founded the guild, Space Guild, evolved to the point where she didn't need a spaceship. She could just do it herself, and she kind of shows up and messes with the Emperor over that. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. That is a particularly interesting scene in the novel, and I would love to see it in like a season 2 or season 3 Dune Prophecy, a take on that within that continuity, within the Villeneuve Dune continuity. I'd love to see that. I don't know, in that particular scene in the novel it's one of those things where the better your imagination is, the better grasp of Frank Herbert's books that you have, the better that scene is. It's not, like I said, it's not, Brian Herbert isn't a bad writer. He's just not a good writer. Same with Kevin J. Anderson. They're not bad writers. They're just not good writers. Then you compare their writing to like Herbert's writing, Frank Herbert's writing. So yeah. But if you have a good solid grasp and you've read the 6 Frank Herbert novels several times and got that under your belt, seen the movies, seen the TV show, you can imagine, you can see it in your brain, and your brain can make it better than what it is. But it's a pretty cool scene, you know, you're at a banquet, you're hanging out with all your subjects, you're the emperor of the known universe, and you're just hanging out, and all of a sudden, poof, guild navigator pops in and says, oh, by the way, you're screwing things up, you need to stop, peace, and pops out. Yeah, that's got to be kind of, I mean, just, you got to think about that, just at a human emotional level, as we are in 2025, that how disconcerting that would be. I mean, think about it. If your homies, you're hanging out at like Pizza Hut or whatever, or hanging out at a restaurant or a bar somewhere, just hanging out, and all of a sudden this thing pops in and goes, oh yeah, by the way, Lemoyne, you're screwing things up, stop, then disappears. Just what that would do to your psyche. It's just oh man, it's stuff like that I got something under my wedding band. I made some tarts earlier, and I think I got cinnamon stuff. I didn't get washed out, but this is crazy though. It's that so far that's probably the coolest scene in that book. Like I said, it's to get a better handle on the TV Dune Prophecy. This novel is worth reading. It's not worth paying full price for it. You can get it online, if you can pick it up PDF online or something like that, for $7, $8, $9. It's worth about that. Happened to scavenge a camera just made a weird noise. Okay, we're back. Battery went dead, had to change out battery. So like I was talking about before the battery interruption, is that this whole thing, like I said, I will probably at some point read all, if not most, of Brian Herbert's books. But that, let's put that to the side. Like I said, in Sisterhood of Dune, the Sisterhood is still forming. They just go by the Sisterhood at this point. They're not the Bene Gesserit yet. They're working on it. I like the way the voice was discovered and the way they did it in Dune Prophecy. That Vale Harkonnen, or Harkonnen, either way, I pronounce it both ways, is kind of the progenitor of it. It's kind of cool. In the novels, in the Brian Herbert novels, it's kind of brought in, and it's not as, I guess if I read more of the Brian Herbert novels it might make more sense, but I'm not enthralled by the way it's introduced in the the Brian Herbert novels. And I also don't like the fact that in the novels that they have to take a drug at this particular fledgling point. It's about 100 years, 150 years after the overthrow of the thinking machines. So I don't know, it just, Frank Herbert relied more on science. He used a science that is sufficiently advanced, far enough will seem like magic to us, but in Frank Herbert's world there's no real magic. It's all science, manipulation of science, manipulation of sound waves. And unfortunately Brian Herbert doesn't do as good job as making it stand out. If Sisterhood of Dune was more of a fantasy novel, I think a lot of the ideas that he put in would work better, but that's just, like I said, my personal opinion, my personal thoughts. So you gotta take it with it. It is what it is. Now the Talaxu. We'll go over the Talaxu. Then probably next video we'll hit the Ixians. Maybe hit the Sisterhood a little bit harder. But the Talaxu they've mutated. They're humans, but they've mutated because they're very insular, very inbreeding would not be the word, because they don't breed the way we conceptualize breeding. basically they gola themselves from generation to generation and make whatever adjustments they need from one gola to the next. We never, through all of Frank Herbert's books, we never meet a female Tlaxu. We find out in the very last Herbert novel, Chapter House Dune, that female Tlaxu are basically converted into birthing tanks. They're augmented with tech. They're lobotomized and put on life support, and they function as giant chamber. They refer to them as oxalato tanks in the books. But that's what the Tlaxu did with their females. And the same thing, when they get old and die, they just make a new gola. They grow it to the needed age, pop it in the brain, put it on life support, and make basically a birthing tank. They also created the face dancers. The face dancers are genderless. They have to touch somebody. Whoever they touch, they absorb that DNA and they can shape shift into that person. A lot of times, especially in the Herbert novels, what they'll do is they'll touch somebody, kill them, dispose of the body, and become that person for whatever the mission is. The problem with the face dancers is the longer, especially as the face dancers evolve, as the Tlaxu evolve the technology, make them better and harder to pick out amongst real humans. The Tlaxu the face dancers by Heretics of Dune have evolved to the point that if they spend too much time as somebody, they become that person, because they have evolved to the point where when they touch them or register their DNA, absorb their DNA, that they slowly become them, that the original DNA takes over. And that's kind of interesting, and it leads to some really interesting stuff in Chapter House Dune. But I'm going to go ahead and call this video good here. Hope you enjoyed being in the outside with me. It's just the weather's cool, and I'm taking advantage of it to do as many videos as I can out here, because this is Texas and it's going to get hot quick. So until next time, be a good human, be good to other humans. Peace.